Matt Ryan, who was named the NFL MVP on Saturday, became the 8th straight NFL MVP to lose in a Super Bowl. In the final 16 minutes of regulation, Ryan completed 4 of 8 passes with 2 off-target throws, no touchdowns, and 3 sacks, including one that resulted in a lost fumble while up 16 in the 4th. Through 3 quarters, he had a perfect passer rating, 158.3. In the 4th, it dropped to 98, still solid. Here's Matt putting on a brave face after the most devastating loss of his career.
That was a tough one. I wish I could have done a better job trying to get rid of that ball. That was a big drive for us to kind of turn the field and get the ball down in field goal range, and to not come away with points on that drive was very disappointing.
All right, gentlemen. I'm going to start with you, Max. Did this performance prove Ryan is not the league MVP?
Yes, it did. And I hate to say it because I understand the logic of saying, look, you got to give a regular season MVP award because a third of the teams about in the NFL, a little more, make the playoffs. But what about the 2/3, little less, that don't? You know, you're going to remember recency bias. You're going to remember the last thing you saw, and then the guys who don't make the playoffs or don't progress as far in the playoffs get shafted and all that stuff. I get that. But we can't pretend that the highest leverage games don't count. They count for more, much more, than a regular season game. And what we have right now is an MVP in the regular season and an MVP for the Super Bowl, and we pretend that the entirety of the playoffs don't happen, including the Super Bowl.
Wait, you can't factor in the playoffs.
Yeah, you can't factor in the playoffs. Everything's regular season.
No, right. And that's the problem, because the reality is, was he regular season MVP?
Yeah.
He has a strong case. But why are we even asking the question, does this prove he wasn't the real MVP? We're asking the question because we implicitly acknowledge that there's higher leverage games, and we'll see what's what at the end of those games. And what you saw at the end of that game is that Matt Ryan wasn't the MVP. Sorry to Matt Ryan, who had a fantastic year. But you can't come up that small in the biggest moments of the biggest games and say you're the MVP.
Let me go ahead and get him. First of all, how can you say the man came up small? You just heard the numbers when he in his first half and the second half.
Second half, I said.
98%. I mean, in the fourth quarter, that wins ball games. If you can't win when your quarterback has a QB rating of 98, that says to me
you can't take a sack in that situation.
Oh, so you're gonna just go by the sack and say he's not an MVP? If that's the case, then Peyton Manning should.
Was he a runaway MVP? Was he a runaway MVP?
No, it don't matter if you run away if you won by 1 vote. He's still an MVP.
Right. So if it's that close,
he beat Aaron Rodgers. You're Michael Jordan of the NBA.
And by the way, had Aaron Rodgers been the quarterback of the Atlanta Falcons, they would have.
Well, this isn't Madden football where you start taking one quarterback off one team and put him on another. Can you please just give him your whole slogan? What is he right now?
You're wrong.
But are you going to give him the wrong? You're not going to give him the disrespectful?
No. He's not being disrespectful. He's just wrong. I understand in the immediate aftermath of the Super Bowl, the fact that Matt Ryan, who's been in this league for so long, took that sack. You got to know better than that. Again, that doesn't mean he's not the MVP. I'm just saying this ain't the day to gloat about Matt Ryan, because Matt Ryan hurt himself in that regard, but it doesn't negate the fact that he is the MVP. The MVP is based on what you've done throughout the regular season. He was nothing short of phenomenal, not to mention the fact that in the postseason he was phenomenal as well.
Absolutely.
Against Seattle and Green Bay, and he deserves credit for that. That mistake that he made in terms of taking that sack after the -1 yard run by Devontae Freeman, which followed Julio Jones' spectacular catch for 27 yards down the right sideline. Of course, that's going to count against Matt Ryan, not to mention the fact that when you have a 28-3 lead, people are looking at you and saying, could you not stop the bleeding? So, again, what I'm saying to you is that he's not. You're wrong. He is the MVP, and we shouldn't look at him any differently. What we should look at him as is this. Even in the throes of Matt Ryan going for league MVP honors, at no time did we ever compare him to
Molly. Why ask
Matt Ryan played a phenomenal game.
At no time did we ever compare him to Tom Brady.
No need to.
I'm saying we learned why yesterday. As you would say.
We suspected before the game.
As y'all both would say, there are levels to this.
Yes.
Matt Ryan is great, but Tom Brady is on another level.
Why are you asking the question in the first place? You're asking the question. Implicit in the question is, should we wait till the end of the Super Bowl before we give out the MVP award? That's really what the question asks.
We should not.
Then why would we even ask if this proves he wasn't the MVP? The reason it does prove that is because the questions of people like Stephen A. and others was, in the moment of truth, do you trust Matt Ryan? And many people
yes, I saw that yesterday.
Many people said no, and they, in the moment of truth, were proven right when he took the sack.
No, people say no because of the end result. When he had the football in his hands, he did what he needed to do, throwing it to the right person, did not turn the football over. So we're going to nitpick on a certain play during the game and blame Matt Ryan and say he's not the MVP. That is so disrespectful, because if you want to go on the opposite side of the ball, then that means that Tom Brady shouldn't have threw that interception that went for a touchdown. They wouldn't have been in that situation.
Exactly.
So it's disrespectful in a sense for you when you're talking about Matt Ryan and everything that he's accomplished during the regular season. And then he and Tom Brady both going into this championship game throwing for almost 800 yards in the playoffs. That says a lot about what he was able to accomplish, not only just during the regular season, but also when it counted in the last 8 games of the season. Tom Brady and also Matt Ryan are very similar in a sense, because both knew how to protect the football. They did what they needed to do to help their team win. They were the best player on the football team, even though people may say Julio Jones, but I still say Matt Ryan was the best football player on the Atlanta Falcons, and he was the best football player last night.
Julio Jones is the best. And by the way,
see, that's the problem that I have. I have a problem with that because we always want to bring somebody else around the quarterback and say he's the best player. But in order for that receiver to get the ball, the quarterback has to get him the football.
Yeah, but the reason his completion percentage was as high as it was because Julio Jones, even with
what about 13? He threw 13. He threw touchdowns to 13 other people.
I'm not saying Matt.
Wait.
I'm not saying Matt Ryan's not. I'm
but
not saying Matt Ryan's not excellent. But if we acknowledge that the MVP race was close, in other words, he was barely the MVP over some other candidates, then we also have to acknowledge that the outcome of the highest leverage game will affect how we feel about it.
It doesn't matter if it's by 1 vote or a half a vote. He's the MVP.
He's MVP.
And if
he deserves to be the MVP.
And if the defense,
why are we asking the question?
We're asking the question because it always comes down to who's better than who. Because now we want to sit in the sense with Matt Ryan, who's not the Tom Brady and that has a name, but in a game that mattered the most, when we want to sit there and nitpick different things, we want to now pull something out about Matt Ryan. If he would have won that game, he would have been probably the best quarterback in the Super Bowl since Phil Simms when it comes to efficiency and consistency in the passing game. Matt Ryan has put on a clinic during the game where only went less than 45 plays in a game. That right there should tell you
We're asking the question because in the moment of truth we want to know.
Yes.
Randy Moss will likely be a first ballot Hall of Famer next year when he's eligible. I sincerely doubt that at any point we're going to sit up there and say Randy Moss is the best player on the New England Patriots instead of Tom Brady. We're not going to say that.
No.
Because we're going to recognize that despite the greatness of a Randy Moss, somebody had to get him the damn ball. I'm not going to disrespect Matt Ryan as much as I think that Julio Jones has established himself as the best. As much as I believe that that catch by Julio Jones was
outstanding.
Spectacular. The bottom line is I saw a lot of accurate passes that Matt Ryan was throwing. The New England Patriots were successful. Time of possession proves it. They kept them off the field. They sat up there and disrupted their rhythm. They affected them in ways that normally teams couldn't affect. You got to remember, coming into yesterday's Super Bowl, the previous 6 games, the Atlanta Falcons had played with a double-digit lead in the second half. So you got your prevent defense. You're playing with a cushion. You're able to take chances. It affected a lot of things. The same thing happened yesterday, except that Tom Brady got going. All of a sudden, it pressurized them. They weren't able to produce. And what I think we've learned is that Matt Ryan, we haven't learned anything about the greatness of Matt Ryan except for one thing, which we truly already knew. There are levels to this, and as great as Matt Ryan is, he ain't
Matt Ryan in the NFC Championship game kept adding to the lead. It was ruthless, even in the second half. Even as Aaron Rodgers made plays that no one else could make, Matt Ryan
Green Bay's defense is not New England's.
Exactly. Yes, when faced with a good defense
Seattle's
in the biggest moment, they were going 3 and out.
Defense, they were good.
They were going 3 and out. If not for Julio Jones, it would have been worse.
Seattle's defense is good.
Yeah.
What do you do against them?
No, well, actually, Earl Thomas made all the difference with Seattle.
Earl Thomas, they were still a good defense.
Not the secondary was severely compromised. The point you've made on this show.
Not that severely.
Pretty severe.
To the point where you're scoring 40.
Guys,
yeah.
We got to leave it there.